Right, so bidding the opponent's suit as the opening side. Now, I just want to do a little definitions clarification. Bidding the opponent's suit, or bidding a suit that the opponents have named, in any kind of, as long as their suit is natural, of course. Bidding their suit is known as cue bidding. Originally, cue bidding used to, I'm sure the definition has changed, or I got it wrong, one or the other. Originally, the definition of cue bidding was bidding to show an ace, a control bid, what I call a control bid. I still, to this day, catch myself calling control bids cue bids and cue bids control bids, so I'm not helping you by mixing those two up. A cue bid is bidding an opponent's suit. A control bid is naming a control. So they are different things. So when I'm going to talk about cue bidding tonight, which doesn't necessarily mean you're looking for a slap. They're very closely worded, but they mean different things. So, cue bidding, bidding the opponent's suit, is always a forcing action. The reason it's forcing is because if you are bidding the opponent's suit, let's say they bid one spade and you bid two spades, there is no way you want to play in spades, because that's their suit, not yours. So it's categorically forcing. It makes your partner do something. Therefore, it always means you have more points than you otherwise claimed, or you otherwise kind of said. So by making a forcing bid, making your partner bid, you have to have a decent hand. So making a cue bid, you must have a good hand. Now, good hand is contextual. Is it an opening hand? Is it a good responding hand? It all depends on who you are, the opener, the overcaller, or the responder. But essentially, a cue bid, it kind of just getting it right, diluting it right down, it's a forcing bid, and it shows a decent hand in the context. Okay? Now, I've split it because cue bidding as any person is quite a big subject, because you can cue bid as the overcallers and the openers and the responders. So what I'm going to look at tonight is cue bidding when you're the team that started the bidding, you're the team that opened the bidding. Okay? Now, there are three different opening bids you can do, assuming you're opening at the 1 level. If you're opening at the 2 level, that's slightly different, because it's a weak 2 or it's one of the power hands. But if you're opening at the 1 level, you're either opening one of a minor, one of a major, or one no trump. The cue bid, cue bidding an opponent's overcall, when that happens, it varies slightly depending on whether you've opened a minor, a major, or no trumps. Okay? So I'm just going to kind of go through them. The reason they're different is because the contracts we look to get towards are different depending on what you've opened. Typically speaking, although this isn't always the case, typically speaking, when your team, assuming we're north-south, if your team opens the minor, typically, if you are looking to get to game, it's normally 3 no trumps. And if your partner opens a major, normally you're angling towards game in that major in preference to 3 no trumps. Just because we prefer game in a major to 3 no trumps, which is concurrent throughout all of the bidding. So, in the situation where the opponent's overcall, cue bidding when your partner has opened a minor is different to cue bidding when your partner opened a major. It's all about what contract you are eventually looking to get towards. So, if you cue bid when your partner has opened a minor suit, cue bid here would be 2 hearts. I put a little asterisk next to it because it needs alerting. Obviously it needs alerting because it doesn't show hearts. When your partner's opened a minor, it says 2 things. I have a good, well, I suppose that's one of the base rules. I have a good hand. I want to go to at least the level I'm forcing to. So in this instance, this is forcing to at least 3 clubs as a minimum, or, the minimum number of level. And the second thing it says, so it's a forcing bid basically, and the second thing it says is I am concerned about the suit they've bid. So it's a stopper inquiry. It is looking for no trumps, but this hand can't bid no trumps themselves, and the reason they can't bid no trumps is because they lack a stopper in the enemy suit. So one of the most difficult things to deal with when the opponents intervene is you want to bid 3 no trumps, but you haven't got a stopper. So when their partners open a minor suit, bidding their suit directly says, bid no trumps if you have a stopper. Now this has bypassed looking for a major fit. As always, preference is looking for a major fit. So if you have a major to name, let's say this hand had 5 or even 6 spades, they should be bidding spades in preference to looking for no trumps. So this, in a sense, by inference, says that they don't have a major of interest. They think 3 no trumps or some no trumps is the correct kind of denomination. They're just deciding whether to go for no trumps or not, depending on if North has a hard stopper. So simply put, if it's a minor opening, a cue bid asks for a stopper. Okay? Be aware of the level you're forcing your side to. You might be forcing them to 3 no trumps as the minimum number of no trumps. Not in this particular instance, but in a slightly different scenario, you could be cue bidding at the 3 level, which forces them to 3 no trumps. So just be aware, if you're forcing them to potentially 3 no trumps, obviously you need to have a game going hand. So for this cue bid, you want at this level, you could probably get away with 10 or 11 points, but if you were at the 3 level, let's say they did 2 hearts as their overcall, and 3 hearts, that would be forcing to game. You want a game in hand. So just be slightly aware of the level you're forcing to. It's always at least invitational plus, because you're making a strong bid, in the sense that you're making a forcing bid. Okay? So, after a minor, it says, have you got a stopper? That's basically all it says, direct question. If North does have a stopper, they bid no trumps. If they don't have a stopper, they bid something sensible, whether that's repeating their suit, bidding their second suit, jumping in their second suit, whatever. Okay? Now, if your partner opens a major, let's turn those 2 suits round. 1 heart from North, now 2 clubs from East. The cue bid here would be 3 clubs. The reason this is a different situation, because you could argue this could be asking for a club stopper for 3 no trumps. You could argue it's the same thing, but ever so slightly different. The reason this is different is because we would like to, if we can, play in hearts. Whereas before, when partner opened clubs, we didn't really want to play in clubs. We wanted to play no trumps if possible. So again, it's all about our preference of game contracts. So here, we want to play in hearts if we can. Now, there is one thing that is lost when the opponents overcall after your partner opens a major, and that is a way of forcing your partner to game in that major. So if you had a weak hand with 4 hearts, let's say 7 points with 4 hearts, you could still bid 2 hearts here. There's nothing wrong with bidding 2 hearts over their overcall. You, in a sense, ignore them. If you had an invitational hand with 4 hearts, you could bid 3 hearts. And if you had a game-going hand, you could bid 4 hearts. So their overcall hasn't really disrupted you as far as the fact that you've got a major. What they have stolen from you is a potential to look for some kind of slam. They've taken away, if you play it, Jacoby 2 no trumps. Because if you bid 2 no trumps as South, that shows a club stopper and a natural hand. You with me? If this wasn't bid and you bid 2 no trumps, that would be Jacoby. But because this is bid, 2 no trumps is now useful as a natural bid. So what they have stolen from you by making that overcall, they've stolen a way for you to show a good hand with hearts. Again, the same kind of theme. By making a cue bid, you're showing a good hand with something specific. In the first instance, it asks for a stopper. In this instance, it says, I think there might be a heart slam on. So what you need to make a cue bid after your partner opens a major is a major fit, 4 cards or more, unless you play 5-card majors, and some kind of slam interest, so at least a game-going hand. What this does is effectively replaces Jacoby, because Jacoby is lost when they intervene. So if they bid 1 spade or 2 diamonds, 2 no trumps is a natural bid. So therefore you need, assuming you want to, you need a way of replacing Jacoby. And that's what the direct cue bid does. It says, I like your suit and I'm interested in slam. After this, you will then go into control bids, which I often confuse with cue bids. This is a cue bid. 3 diamonds here would then be a control bid, suggesting some kind of slam. Okay? So, minor, overcall, cue bid, looking for 3 no trumps. Major, overcall, cue bid, looking for some kind of major contract, potentially slam. Okay? If you don't have a major fit with South, you would then be bidding naturally and or passing, depending on your strength. Bid 2 diamonds or 2 spades, or pass or take out double. You would make a more normal action. Okay? You only cue bid when you have a good hand and a fit for your partner's major. In the first instance, you don't need a fit for your partner's suit because you're looking for no trumps. In this instance, you do need a fit because you are looking for a contract in your partner's suit. Okay? Right, now there's one opening bid I haven't covered, and that is 1 no trump. When your partner opens 1 no trump, it's often, especially when you first learn the conventions, it's often quite an exciting time because you get to try out Stayman and transfers. We're probably all bored by Stayman and transfers now, I get that. But when it first happens, you go, ooh, I could bid diamonds to show hearts. And one of the most heartbreaking things when you are in that sort of 6-month pocket where you just learn transfers is when someone bids in front of you. So when they bid, let's say, 2 hearts, that is very upsetting when your partner's at 1 no trump. Because not only can you not use your fancy conventions and you can show off about knowing these fancy conventions, they've also taken away bidding space. So you can't do your fancy stuff, and you might not be able to bid your suit naturally at the 2 level. So you've actually lost quite a lot when they overcall over 1 no trump, which is often why, looking on the other side of the coin, why I suggest you do overcall over their 1 no trump as often as possible, because it upsets their systems. Hence why I like Aspro, for example. So when they do overcall over your 1 no trump opening, it is very irritating. Because you've now lost, for example here, we've now lost Stayman, transfer to hearts and transfer to spades by them doing that. Now I understand we probably didn't want to transfer to hearts, given that they have hearts, but we've lost a transfer to spades and Stayman. So imagining we had sort of, let's say, 11, 12-ish points with 4 spades, there's no real way to look for a spade fit, because we were about to use Stayman. What you mustn't do with a conventional bid is just up it one and hope your partner understands. So if you bid 3 clubs as south, that is not Stayman. That isn't, they took 2 clubs away from me, so I'm bidding 3 clubs. You are going to understand this, aren't you, looking at them? Because they won't. Because it's not strictly Stayman, is it? 3 clubs is not Stayman. So what you would bid, if you bid 3 clubs, that would be natural and clubs for me, unless you've got some special agreement. So you need a way of asking your partner for majors. Because again, we're looking for a major contract over 3 no trumps. So what you use the Q-bid here for is essentially to replace the Stayman that you lose. So a Q-bid after 1 no trump is Staymanic. It says, have you got either major or the other major, depending on whether they've bid a major or not. So 3 hearts here would say, do you have 4 cards in spades? It directly replaces Stayman. It's essentially the identical thing as Stayman. The slight difference, well, I suppose there's a couple of differences. The first thing is we are now at the 3 level as a minimum, so you need to be game going. And the second thing is, it is plausible that your partner has to bid 3 no trumps if they don't have spades, and neither of you have a heart stopper. That is plausible, isn't it? Given that you're forcing them to bid, do you have 4 spades? The only way they can say no is to bid 3 no trumps in this particular sequence. It is plausible, although it's never actually happened to me, that neither of you could have a heart stopper. Firstly, this is unlikely. That means that this hand and this hand both have an opening hand, and neither of them have anything at all in hearts, which is quite unlikely. And the second thing is, they were able to bid to discover this lack of stopper. It's super unlikely. So what I would say is, without expert conventions, what I would do is bid the major if you have it. If you don't, bid 3 no trumps. And accept the 1 in, let's say, 100 times where 3 no trumps goes off. There is a way to get around this problem, which is by playing a convention called Lebenssolve, but I will be here till the end of the lesson explaining that to you, so that is a separate lesson in itself. But there is a way around this problem that I'm presenting to you. But essentially, 1 no trump, overcall, Q-bid, I'm trying to do Stayman, is essentially what it is. Beware, you need more points because you're doing it at the 3 level, not the 2 level. So instead of the regular 11 for Stayman, you need a game going hand, so 13, or a good 12, I suppose. In this instance, I would suspect South has 4 cards in spades and some kind of game going hand. Okay? Now, you could, imagine we didn't know anything about Q-bids just for a second, you could make a takeout double as South, and that would, in a sense, be sort of Stayman-y, in the sense that what suit we should be looking for is most likely spades. However, this takeout double doesn't promise, for me, doesn't promise 4 spades, it just suggests they'd want to compete against hearts. So this hand, this could have 3 spades and 5 clubs, for example. So a direct Q-bid is a specific question, i.e. Stayman. A takeout double is more of a generic, please bid something partner. It's not a specific question, okay? So the Q-bid replaces Stayman, a double is just a generic competitive bid, as it always is.
Is this just because we're majors? So if East was overcalling with a minor, so they bid 2 clubs as your Asper or 2 diamonds.
I'll get to that in a minute. If they overcall a minor that's natural, it's essentially the same thing. So double will be takeout, 3 diamonds, which is that direct Q-bid.
But then you'd be looking for both suits, right?
You could be looking for either, not necessarily both.
Sorry.
So 2 diamonds being natural, I'll get to artificial in a minute. 2 diamonds being natural, 3 diamonds is Stayman.
Hearts or spades.
Hearts or spades, or both, or neither, depending on what.
So when they did a major, you're actually always looking for the other major.
Correct. Correct. So because they've named a major, it must be the other major. Whereas when they bid a minor, it could be either. It's just like normal Stayman, basically. Yeah. Now, if they make an artificial overcall, now artificial overcalls are not very common unless it's after 1 no trump. So if you open 1 spade, it's unusual for people to play 2 clubs as artificial. Typically speaking, if you open 1 of a suit and someone else bids another suit, that normally 99.9% of the time is a natural bid. If you open one no trump, quite a lot of players, including me, play things like Aspro, Landy, Becker, all sorts of other different artificial conventions, where a bit of two diamonds, after a one no trump opening specifically, show something. They might show, for me that would show spades in another suit, it might show both minors if you're playing Becker, it might show a long 6-card suit if you're playing multi-landy. There's all sorts of different versions of overcalls. Whenever they make an artificial bid, first piece of advice, find out what's going on. You need to know what this hand has. Does this hand have diamonds? Does it have spades in another suit? Does it have the minors? Does it have the majors? There's all sorts of funky conventions, and you need to know what's going on. If it were Aspro, which I think is probably the most common, Landy perhaps, but anyway, let's say it was Aspro, that shows spades in another suit. Beware, whenever they make an artificial bid, if you want to make a Q bid, you have to bid the suit they have, not the suit they've named. So in this instance, this hand, if they're playing Aspro, obviously you have to ask them, if they're playing Aspro, that would show spades and another suit. So how would I Q bid? What would I bid? I have to bid spades, right? Because this hand is showing spades. So beware, when they make an artificial bid, to make a Q bid, you have to bid the suit they have. So here, this is where it gets confusing, because you look at the table, and it doesn't look like you've Q bid, but you have. So the reason it's confusing is because they're being confusing, essentially, the opponents. So here, two spades. That is a Q bid. So what is that Q bid saying, based on the information before? What does that say? Or what's it asking? Have you got a major? In this instance, the major must be hearts, mustn't it? Because this hand's got spades. And therefore, if South were to bid 3 diamonds, is that a cube or is it not?
Natural.
It's natural. It looks like a cubit, doesn't it? Doesn't that look like a cubit? One no trump, 2 diamonds, 3 diamonds. So as the one no trumper, you're looking at, especially tonight when you're going to be eyes open for the cupids, one no trump, 2 diamonds, 3 diamonds, you're going to go, they're looking for a major. But only if that bid, this bid, is natural. You with me? So I just wanted to point out, I have had this happen once where I explained cubids to someone, and then it was an artificial bid, and they bid the artificial suit to cubid. But it doesn't work because it has to be a natural bid for it to be a cubid. You follow me? So therefore, 2 diamonds being an artificial bid, which may or may not be the case, you need to ask them to find out. If it is artificial, you need to bid the suit they actually have to do a cubid. If it isn't artificial, you bid the suit that they've bid. Okay. It just kind of follows. It's a pattern. If they bid natural, cubid is natural. If they bid artificial, cubid is artificial.
Dominic, if that 2 diamond is Becker, means you've got both majors.
Both majors, okay.
So what would your bid be?
Either 2 hearts or 2 spades would both be, in that instance, a cubid. If that shows both majors, then either hearts or spades would both be a cubid.
Would that bid show your partner what you've got then?
It would be, that's partnership agreement, really. Because normally, typically speaking, just a generic agreement, a cubid here would look for a major fit. However, if they've shown both majors, it's unlikely you want to play a major.
Yeah.
So for me, I would revert to asking for a stopper in that instance, but you would need that specific agreement in place. But if that does show both majors, there's no point this bit looking for majors, because you guys want to play together then, rather than you guys. So I suggest if that is both majors, then a cubid just says, I'm worried about this suit for no trumps. I would revert to the natural use, if you will. Okay? But it's more commonly specific suit, unnamed suit, like Aspro or Multi-Landy or whatever. Yeah? Do you have a question for it? No, that clears it up? Okay, good. It really highly depends on what their convention is as to how you proceed. I can't tell you how important it is you know what they're showing when they're doing funky bids. Okay? Cubids rely on them to be natural orientated. If they are making weird bids, your weird bids become weirder still, if you see what I mean. In the sense that their weird bids then make you have to think really hard about how you cubid, if you want to cubid in that instance. I thought I'd point that out because over one of a suit, they always bid naturally. Over one no trump, you will find opponents do not necessarily bid naturally. Most opponents will play, let's say 2 spades, 2 of a major. Most opponents will play 2 of a major still as a natural bid. In that instance, you can just be normal. Okay? Right, I'm just going to put a couple of hands on there. Oh, one more thing, just before I forget. So far I've dealt with opening bid, overcall, cubid. What I haven't dealt with is opening bid, pass, normal bid, overcall, cubid. So cubided by this person, rather by this person. Okay? These are much rarer. I don't know why, because theoretically speaking, both opponents could have an overcall, couldn't they? Either of them could. But typically, after it's gone opening bid response, they overcall less, simply because of the level. It's normally higher by the time 2 bids have come. So it's less frequent. However, it's worth noting you can queue bid as the opening person. So if the bidding were something like 1 diamond pass, 1 heart, then an overcall of 1 spade, this is now a different scenario. Because we've dealt with opening of 1 club, we've dealt with opening of, 1 of a minor, we've dealt with opening of 1 of a major, and then 1 no trump. This is different because we opened the bidding. So does it depend on what the suit they've responded in, or the suit we've opened, or neither? Because you could argue a Q bid here agrees hearts, or a Q bid looks for a stopper for no trumps. Either of those routes could be the way, couldn't they? So typically speaking, when it's the opening person who is making the Q bid rather than the responder, firstly, a note, you need a much better hand to make a Q bid. That's because you are the opener, your responder has promised you very few points. They promised you 6. So for you to be a forcing hand, you want 16, 17 upwards, that kind of region. And the second thing is, it nearly always, not always, but it's almost always looking for no trumps. It's a way of forcing more information from your partner. This Q bid here, let's say North bids 2 hearts, 2 spades, which will be a Q bid. You essentially can't nail them down to a specific hand type like you can as the responder. It's just a strong bid that is forcing. Almost always wanted to bid no trumps but can't because they've not got a stopper in that suit. Almost always. Okay? A Q bid from the opener themselves is less specific, but the same kind of nature bid. It's a strong bid, 16, 17, that kind of region, and it almost always is looking for a stopper of some description. Either that, or it's trying to create a forcing situation where it looks for a slam or something, which is really unusual. Okay? But again, follows the same thing. Forcing, looking for more information. Alright? These are less common, and typically, as long as you've got the agreements of bid, overcall, Q, they tend to be the most times that you make a Q bid. And it goes like that. Alright?
What if he's double? So 1 diamond double.
Okay. If East doubles, typically you just ignore them.
Okay.
So you can't Q bid because you don't know what their suit is.
No, I meant, so then...
If they double the 2 spades?
No, so East doubles.
Yeah, okay.
That's, and then response to the double. Do you take the... Can you then do 2 spades?
Yeah, you can still do a Q bid here. It would show... If this hand has passed, that would show a really good hand for me now. It's all about how many points you have together. That would show a really good hand forcing their partners to bid. I'm not sure why North hasn't just take out double that 1 spade in preference though. But yeah, basically it's the same thing. Okay? Right, I'm just going to do a couple of hands where we might use a Q bid and you can see hopefully how it solves a problem. Hopefully, assuming I set the hands up right. Alright? Okay. Firstly, the first use, if you will. North opens a minor, 1 club. East overcalls coincidentally a minor, which is 1 diamond. So we could support the clubs. We could support our partner's clubs. We could make a natural bid of 3 clubs, showing 10 to 12 points. The reason I'm somewhat concerned with bidding 3 clubs is non-forcing. And given that I've got an opening hand and my partner has an opening hand, I think we're angling towards game. Game is not guaranteed, no, but I think we're angling towards that. So here, a Q bid would be what? 2 diamonds, and what would that show? What would that be asking for, or show?
Have you got a stopper in diamond?
Have you got a stopper? So really, because we've got a minor fit, me and North, it looks to me that we want to be going towards 3 no trumps. But the problem with bidding 3 no trumps or 2 no trumps ourselves is that we haven't got a diamond stopper. So when your partner owns a minor, a Q bid is a way of getting them to bid the no trumps, should they have a stopper. The really good thing about this, the hidden advantage of this, is the lead will then be coming round to them. If you can get the overcaller on lead, you will be doing well, because they have to lead away from their goodies. Whereas if this hand's on lead, leading through your partner's stopper, that is bad, because their goodies are sat on top of your partner. So getting them to lead away from their long suit is a hidden advantage of the Q bid, because it transfers the contract over there. Assuming, of course, they have a stopper themselves. It might go, 2 diamonds, have you got a stopper? 2 hearts, no. And then you bid 3 clubs. And just revert to what you think is a safe contract. Alright? So, when they open a minor, Q bid looks for a stopper. Typical hand, some points, but not stopper. If I change this hand to this, I would not now make a cue bid. Why?
Major.
Come bid major.
We might have a major fit, might we? So therefore, I would bid what over one diamond?
One heart.
2 home.
2 hearts, 3 hearts, 1 heart.
One heart.
One heart, isn't it?
We all agree on one thing, and that is hearts.
Yeah.
1 heart is forcing. So a cue bid would, in theory, be okay, wouldn't it? Have you got a diamond stopper for 3 no trumps? And 3 no trumps might be the right contract, but we haven't yet written off the fact that we have a heart fit. So we must explore that first. All right. So you might be cue bidding on the next round. They bid 3 clubs or something, and then you bid 3 diamonds, and it would be the same message. But at least we've explored the heart fit first before. I mean, they might support hearts, they might not. It then goes into a million different combinations if you go like further bids down.
How would you indicate in south that you have 5 rather than 4?
It's difficult for you to do so, to be frank. A cue bid would potentially be fishing for a 3rd heart from north. They would show you that in preference to a stopper potentially, but it's difficult with a 5 card suit. With 6 you can always repeat them. With 4 you know immediately. 5 is often the grey area. So I would hope north would bid 3 hearts with 3 cards in hearts over the cue if that were to happen. But you don't know, not necessarily guaranteed. You might play 3N with a 5-3 heart fit sometimes. Alright, so key thing there, the opening bid dictated what the cue bid meant. Because the partner's opened a minor, we want to be looking for 3 no trump, but only if we don't have a major ourselves. Okay, that's important. Because especially tonight, you're going to have cue bid frenzy. So you've got to remember your principles, your original principles, okay? Right, now if partner opens a major suit, let's say a spade, 2 hearts. Now I'll change his hand slightly. When partner opens a major and we have a good hand, that's when you use the cue bid to replace the jack b2 no trumps, assuming you play it. We've got 14 points, so we can agree our partner's spades. We could just bid 4 spades, because we think game is on. The problem with 4 spades is what will your partner do over 4 spades? Pass almost all of the time. They might have that 18, 19 magic hand where they bid on anyway, but typically speaking, if they've got 15, 16 points, they're going to just going to pass and let you play in 4 spades. Well, let themselves play in 4 spades. So there might be a slam on, and the way to get into the slam talk, if you will, is by making the cue bid. Because you would quite like to have used Jacoby with this hand, but East did not let you do so. So therefore, 3 hearts here, because our partner has opened a major suit, 3 hearts shows a slam interested hand, not a committed interested hand. Right, now the last example is the 1 no trump. I think we all know what Stayman hands look like, so I don't really feel like I need to hit the hammer and nail this in lots, but still it's worth doing. Something like that, some typical Stayman hand really. The only difference is we need a couple more points because we're at the 3 level rather than the 2 level. So 1 no trump, 2 diamonds being a natural bid, 3 diamonds would say what?
There's a 4 card major.
Have you got a 4 card major? Is stay manic after a no trump opening bid. Again, focusing on the majors. Alright, what if 2 diamonds was Aspro?
2 spades.
How would you cue now?
2 spades.
2 spades. And what would that be looking for?
Stop hearts.
Stopper, or is it looking for 4 cards in hearts?
Hearts.
You could argue either way, but I agree. Hearts. It's looking for a half fit primarily. It's always looking for the major primarily, if it can be, logically speaking. So in this instance, 2 spades is a cue bid of their named suit, which is spades. You follow me? So therefore, North would bid hearts if they have them. If they don't have hearts, they would bid something sensible. 2 no trumps, 3 clubs, 3 diamonds, whatever.